We're not the same as a bank in the sense that we hold assets for clients or take custody of assets. We're sitting in the middle and basically providing users with a integrated sort of simple approach to access all of these different opportunities within DeFi. So as I mentioned, it's a very fragmented space. And so this is a single point of access that helps people bridge into all of these different solutions. And we're doing it in a very, very cost efficient way, really with the goal of making finance more accessible and more inclusive and lowering the barriers for people.
My next guest is Ben Samaroo. He's the CEO of WonderFi Technologies, trades on the New York Exchange under the symbol WNDR. Ben, welcome back.
Great to be here.
It's great to see you as well, Ben. You've been busy. You just closed a financing, and congratulations on that. Upsized it from what you had intended. But what really interests me is that you're offering this collaboration with Circle. And what is that all about? Is that representative of sort of the WonderFi business model?
So we're definitely collaborating with a lot of partners in the space that are, kind of have a shared mission with us, which is creating better access to DeFi. And Circle really is a leader in that space. We partnered with them. They're the creator of USDC, which is the world's fastest growing stablecoin. And we saw an opportunity to partner with Circle to help provide better access to people who want to buy and hold USDC, and then people that want to earn interest on USDC.
Okay, and USDC, is that, how does that compare to, for example, Bitcoin?
So USDC is a stable coin. So you can think of it like a digital currency that doesn't have the price volatility of something like Bitcoin because it's pegged to the US dollar. It's a really interesting asset for people that are looking to get into crypto or DeFi because, again, it doesn't have that volatility, which is not suitable for every investor. I think a lot of people have different risk tolerances and appetites, but the stablecoin is really a great first entry point for people.
Right. So then USDC, does it actually have sort of like a dollar for dollar inventory of US dollars for every USDC coin?
That's exactly right. It's every USDC that is issued is backed by a US dollar that's held in a segregated account and audited. And so that's the whole idea behind a stable coin like USDC.
Unlike, for example, Tether, who has been, under the microscope and has suffered some fines and whatnot from the SEC. So USDC is not the same thing as Tether then?
That's correct. Tether is a different stable coin, the same concept, but for us, it's all about how trusted the partner is that's providing that asset. And that goes for stable coins like USDC and Tether, and then for other assets as well that we provide access to through WonderFi. The big problem with DeFi is that there's so much out there. It's a super fragmented space. It's very complicated. And so having a single point of access where we get to vet and choose which partners and assets we are providing access to, from our perspective, makes accessibility a lot easier and really creates this trusted platform for people to get in and get access to the most secure and trusted and best assets.
Yeah, USDC. So that would, it's almost like the integrity and the trustworthiness of the entire DeFi concept hinges quite heavily on the integrity of the stable coins and the other assets that are available in that universe. So who backs the USDC?
So the concept, Circle was one of the creators of USDC, but the concept really is that it's a trusted party that has transparency around the US dollars that actually back those assets, as we discussed. And so what they do is they have periodic audits by trusted audit firms that can show and represent that those assets, the US dollars, really do exist, that are sitting behind those digital assets that are issued. So the audit and the transparency is really what makes this work. And I think it's really exciting because it does provide people with the ability to hold these digital US dollars, which is exciting for people like us in North America. It's even more exciting for people that live in countries where they don't have a stable local currency. And so having digital US dollars that they can get access to without needing a bank to approve them, without needing a credit score, anything like that, they can, for example, download WonderFi. They've got a bank in their hands that provides them access to one of the leading global currencies. So that's really why, that's one of the reasons why people are getting so excited about stablecoins and about DeFi. And one of the other things that we're doing with Circle is finding ways to provide access to earn interest and yield on those stablecoins in US dollars. For those of us in North America, obviously a big problem that we're facing right now is if you take your Canadian dollars or US dollars and deposit them into your bank account, you're going to earn next to nothing in a savings account. And with DeFi, one of the huge value propositions is being able to earn interest on those digital dollars by lending them out directly to other people, peer to peer, without that bank intermediary. And so the interest rates that you're seeing from people deploying their USDC and other stable coins is much, much higher than what you'll see in a traditional savings account at a bank.
Huh. So does that mean the cost of borrowing in USDC is higher to the borrower?
That means not necessarily, because what's happening is the middleman is being cut out from the transaction. So in the traditional setting, I go and deposit my US dollars into a savings account. I get paid back 0.2%, for instance, and the bank is taking that money and they're finding a borrower and they're earning significantly more interest on that asset. And so what DeFi is doing is basically taking that middleman out. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the borrower is paying a higher percentage. It definitely fluctuates, but just the sheer fact of removing that intermediary is making things more efficient and really allowing the people who are actually participating in this transaction to benefit from it more directly.
So then WonderFi is replacing the disintermediated entity and taking a much lesser fee, I guess.
That's correct. And the way to think about it would be this new system of decentralized finance. It's something that has the potential to disrupt finance, which is the largest industry in the world. This is one example with peer-to-peer lending and borrowing, but there's many other examples as well that arguably work better now or will work better in the near future through using this technology to make things better, more efficient, more transparent. And the way that WonderFi is positioned is we're not the same as a bank in the sense that we hold assets for clients or take custody of assets. We're sitting in the middle and basically providing users with a integrated sort of simple approach to access all of these different opportunities within DeFi. So as I mentioned, it's a very fragmented space. And so this is a single point of access that helps people bridge into all of these different solutions. And we're doing it in a very, very cost efficient way, really with the goal of making finance more accessible and more inclusive and lowering the barriers for people.
Sure. Gary Gensler, the CEO of the SEC, indicated yesterday that he was going to be seeking, or rather they were going to be deploying regulations around stablecoins, which he characterized as poker chips, which kind of like, that's a little bit disturbing when, somebody who says they're going to regulate the industry sort of characterizes one of their assets in such a derogatory fashion. So how does that whole attitude and position of the SEC sort of affect your outlook on the future of your business?
So with regulation, whether it's the SEC or the securities regulators here in Canada, elsewhere, with DeFi, we're at a stage that they're still in an exploratory phase. And myself, I've been involved in the crypto industry for 5 going on 6 years, and actually come from a legal and regulatory background. And so I've been following the developments and being involved with a lot of the regulation as it's evolved in North America with regards to crypto. And I would say, based on that experience, one of the key takeaways for me is that it's the regulatory process is a gradual one, and so you're going to see statements from the SEC, things coming out of China, all different parts of the world. But at the end of the day, the technology that is behind stablecoins, the technology that's behind Bitcoin, what they do is they provide a better, a simpler, and a more fair way to do a lot of these things, whether it's, Bitcoin, looking at that as a store of value versus gold, or if you look at DeFi as the future of finance, another way to do finance. Whatever way you cut it, the better technology is always going to win, and there's going to be growing pains that comes through resistance from incumbents, that comes from regulation, et cetera. But we've seen so many of these challenges throughout the years, particularly with Bitcoin. But we look at where Bitcoin stands now, and especially at this point in time in the year when it's hitting all-time highs, adoption is growing and growing, and there's a lot more room for growth. So I look at the regulatory landscape and just believe that we're definitely at an exploratory stage still with DeFi, and regulation is good, particularly for stablecoins. Regulation for stablecoins will look like more mandated and sort of strict processes around auditing and transparency, and that's just going to be better for the assets and for the industry as a whole.
So the thing that really perplexes me about this entire DeFi revolution, if you will, is that you're basically saying that you're here to disrupt the traditional banking power structures that essentially are the most sort of influential participants in the global financial system. And I've got to think, and I'm sure you must agree, that those guys aren't just going to let you guys walk in and take over cutting their grass and stand aside and say, well, boy, we should have done more. So, I'm just curious as to what do you see happening? What do you think the response is going to be from the traditional banking structures that are so powerful, so influential, so wealthy? What is their response going to be if you actually start disintermediating their business, eating their lunch, taking their customers? What's going to happen?
I think the best way to look at this is to look at other industries in the past that have been disrupted. The one that's popping into my head right now is Blockbuster and Netflix. And so I think that's just such a great story, because it really was something that Netflix brought to the table in the early days, and Blockbuster was not ready to move on that. And they did have an opportunity to work together, acquire, consolidate with this disruptor, but they didn't, and we saw what happened there. That example comes to mind. I do think that financial institutions now are more receptive and aware of what's happening with decentralized finance, and a lot of that is due to the success and adoption of Bitcoin over the last 10 years. So my experience is definitely not my experience has definitely been that incumbents are learning, they're wanting to collaborate, they're wanting to find ways to just get more exposure to the space because they do see the benefits of using technology to make things more efficient within their industry. We've had a lot of conversations with financial institutions in Canada, in the US, and internationally, and they're all looking at this space all in a different way. So I expect there's going to be what I would expect to see for sure is there's going to be banks that are getting into different types of DeFi products, and then there's going to be collaboration between companies like WonderFi that are focused in the DeFi space and some of these incumbents.
Okay, interesting. So then in this relationship with Circle then, which is kind of foundational to the whole premise, when does that sort of turn into meaningful revenue for WonderFi?
So the partnership with Circle, again, it's really around the access to those assets. I'll mention another partnership, which I think is really important for us, which is with DeFi Pulse. And they may be lesser known sort of in the broader community, but within the DeFi community, DeFi Pulse is a really important name. And what they've done is they've first focused around data in DeFi and being able to aggregate that and provide access to that to people that are interested in learning more about the space. And the second one, which is what's really driven us to partner with them, is they provide the largest index in the DeFi space. So it's called the DeFi Pulse Index, and it's a way for people to buy and get market cap weighted exposure to the top DeFi assets in one click. So what we have learned through a lot of our conversations with users through WonderFi is that you're always going to have people that want access to individual assets, just like you do in the traditional investment world. And you're going to have people that want yield, but you're always going to have those people that just want broad exposure so they can diversify their portfolio and just get that broad access. And our partnership with DeFi Pulse allows us to provide access to that product. And it also allows us to create other unique indexes for WonderFi users that have different risk profiles and also that are better suited for different types of users. So we're really excited about that. I think that will be a significant revenue opportunity for WonderFi as well. But kind of broadly speaking, these types of partnerships really solidify our name in this space and just open up a ton of opportunities for us to provide better access to decentralized finance and to banking to people all over the globe.
Okay. Interesting, Ben. Well, it's certainly a fascinating business. I can't say as I understand it completely, but I'm learning as I go, mostly from individuals like yourself and companies like WonderFi. I'm going to keep following and keep trying to wrap my head around it. So I'll come back to you in the future, and I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks, James.
You bet. Bye for now.